Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're so excited to have everyone here. Welcome to our Lumio Palooza global event, where we're really providing that fun, fresh PD opportunities, highlighting how Lumio can provide that fluid workflow to help benefit both teachers and students. And we're going to show you how to create lessons and activities focused on a variety of topics, including classroom instructional strategies. My name is Marissa Kaufman, and I am an instructional development specialist here at SMART. This webinar, Lumio, Science, and STEM, the Perfect Blend, features Monica Alicia, and she is a professional learning specialist from Marietta, Georgia. So we're super excited to hear all of her knowledge of really using Lumio and science in the classroom. And during this time, we really encourage participation. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat box during the presentation. And we'll either integrate those into the flow, or we'll kind of hold them to be answered at the end during our Q&A period. We're also going to be sharing resources from today's webinar in the chat. And also for participating today, a certificate is going to be provided after you complete a brief survey, but we'll provide all that for you at the end. And again, we're super excited to see we have a variety of people here from all over. And so at this point, I'm really going to turn things over to Monica so that we can dive into our webinar of Lumio, Science, and STEM, the Perfect Blend.
Thank you, Marissa. Hi, everybody. As Marissa said, my name is Monica Alicia. I was an instructional technology coach for Cobb County School District in Marietta, Georgia, but I just retired on May 26th was my last day. So June 1st was officially my retirement date. I am currently a professional learning specialist with I2E, which is a Microsoft Global Training Partner. So I'm doing that and some other consulting work and just trying to spend more time with my family, but still keep active in all of my places I love to be. I am a Lumio Gold Ambassador and a Smart Gold Ambassador. So I have a huge love of Lumio, which is why I'm here doing this webinar with you in hopes that you can use it more with your students. So here you have our social media. We hope you'll be online to share what you're learning and what you will enjoy in today's webinar and all the other webinars that are happening. And we'll have more information about that because we actually have a Lumio challenge this month. So our agenda for today is, where do I get started? I'm going to share some examples of science lessons with you. This is geared for elementary classrooms, so I'm going to show some primary and intermediate. And then I'm going to share some STEM and design thinking activities. And at the end, I'll share a wakelet of all of the things, because you're going to see that my slides are overwhelming. I have a lot, but that was the only way I could put them in there to really show you how they go together and how I took some that were already there and added things to it. So all of the things that I've done in here will be on the wakelet, and I will probably continue adding things to that wakelet. So if you save that wakelet collection, you'll continue to get some resources from me. And yes, I'm glad to see you joining. Marissa posts the link for you to join if you want to follow along. So the first thing we're doing is we're doing a whole class board. We want you to just brainstorm anything you would like, any ways that you could use Lumio that you can think of, science topics that you might have, that you might be teaching. Some of you, I know our teachers are going back next week. Some of you won't be going back for a few weeks, but what are some science topics that you might be sharing in your classroom? So I'm going to share the class progress so you can see what everybody is posting in this whole class board. Now, one of the things I always do when I'm doing a whole class board with students is tell them that we have to be aware of each other's space. So if something's there, write a little bit smaller. You can use the pen for this. You can type. So there's ways you could even use an image if you're, and this is actually, brainstorming is a great way to start off Lumio with your kids, because you can actually teach them the tools while you're sharing something whole class. Oh, great. I see states of matter. So I do have something with matter. I do have something in the on the Wakelet about water cycle. I definitely have something about space here for you. I do have landforms, and I feel like erosion is there. Planets, I definitely have some for you. I do believe I have some fossils on the Wakelet that I'm sharing. So I have lots of good stuff for you. That's great. I'm glad to see some of these things. Layers of the Earth. So that would probably go with the landform unit. I'm going to give it a couple more minutes. Thank you for participating. We have 45 in here, so that's awesome. Okay, life cycles, I definitely have that on here. All right, weathering. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to go ahead and go on. And those of you who have used Lumio, you know that since I have this at teacher pace, as I move on, it's going to stop you from writing right now. And you can always change that to student paced if you want to give the kids that opportunity to move at their own pace. All right, so as we get started, you can start with a lesson of your own. And I have a screenshot here, but I'm also going to, in a minute, I'm going to move back and forth between editing the lesson within, so you can see where these are located. But you can start with above your name in your Lumio library. When you're in Lumio in your account, you'll see an import just like this picture. And you can import a PDF, you can import a PowerPoint, which now it's in beta. The PowerPoints are editable right in Lumio. I absolutely love it, which also means it will be, students will able to also use Immersive Reader for that. And so we'll talk about that a little bit briefly also. So that's really great when you're having kids work on their own, that they can have that read to them if they needed to. So you can start there. You can start in the Lumio library, and I will show you how to get there. Or you can start with the plus sign, and you can start totally from scratch. Like you can click the plus sign, start with a YouTube video, or you could start with a game, or you could start with something that's already created. So let me just show you. I'm going to go here to edit the lesson. It's another feature I love about Lumio. I can go back and forth. Like, let's say I saw my kids were struggling on something and I had to add another page. I could do that. So you can see here I am in my Lumio library. But if I wanted to add something from here, I could click the plus sign, and that's where you can get importing your resources, search the Lumio library, or as I said, for starting from scratch, you can see, you could start with a game if you wanted. If you had, let's say you had all your quiz questions on a Word document, you could just copy and paste those questions into a game, and you could start, that could be how you know, or maybe you want to start with an activating prior knowledge like a KWL. So that's a way to do any one of those things that we just talked about. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead to finish editing, and it's going to take me right back to my lesson, and you all should be able to jump right back on. So those are ways to get started, and it's up to you where you are. I know a lot of my teachers, they already have PowerPoints for the whole year created. So they could easily just take that PowerPoint and upload it into Lumio. And if, let's say it was a PowerPoint from last year, they can now tweak it right in Lumio. So it's amazing. So that's one of the things. If you have Google Slides, you can also use that, a PDF, any of those things you can upload. Same with videos. Like I know a lot of my teachers already have YouTube links, but they can write in Lumio, click that plus sign, add a video, and put that link in there, and they'll find the same video to add to Lumio. So let's talk about some science lessons, because that's the big bulk of this, and why you're here is how can I use this with science? There are so many ways to use in science. And if any of you are instructional technology coaches like I was, and not in the classroom, I didn't have ready-made lessons like teachers do. So I would usually ask my teachers, okay, what are you studying in science or social studies or whatever it was I was working with them on? And they would tell me, they would give me their standards or those I could look up in my district. And then I would search the Lumio library to find lessons. And then I would tweak them and add things to them to make them more engaging for students or to really fit what that teacher needed. So if you're a coach out there, that's a great way to get started with your teachers. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is a primary lesson. So in this primary lesson on life cycles, I found a life cycle lesson in the Lumio library. And at the end, if you guys need me to show you that more, I will show you how I did that. And then I went and found, so as I go through, you'll see I went and found a video, a couple of YouTube videos to add. And another one of my favorite things that Lumio has is a connection. They have a partnership with ReadWorks. So I don't know how many of you use ReadWorks in your schools, but ReadWorks has a lot, they have fiction and nonfiction passages, but I love the nonfiction because they go so well with social studies and science. So I went and found a ReadWorks passage that I added into this lesson. So I'm going to share the lesson with you as we go. So this was the lesson that I found in the Lumio library when I just did a search of life cycles second grade, because I know our second grade teachers teach life cycles. And so I went into it. And here it explains, and we're not going to go through every lesson, but I'm just going to point out some things to you. So here it started with explaining what the life cycles were, but then I found a video on the life cycles of a butterfly. So all I did was click that plus sign that I showed you. And I clicked on YouTube video and I just typed in life cycle of a butterfly for second grade. I mean, that's the one thing about the search. You can be very specific, and it came out with several videos. And so I found one that I thought was appropriate for our second grade teachers, and I added that in there. And then this was part of the lesson. So I'm just going to go ahead and start this so you can see it. So after a video, which is a great activating strategy, it gives the kids some information. Go ahead and work on this if you'd like to. And do your matching. This game, you can do whole group at the board if you want, or students can work on it individually. So let's see, some of you place some answers in there. So we can say butterfly lays, so you can be doing it on yours. Butterfly lays, what do they lay on a leaf? And we know it's eggs. And so then after some time, a blank hatches. And okay, so should be larva. Okay. Oh, that's here actually. Wait. I'm going to. Okay, so you can also add in a timer if you want. That's one of the things I wanted to point out. So let's see. And a butterfly comes out of here. Oh, eggs. Actually, it's this. The caterpillar. And then and these clue words help you. So you can check the answers and then you can see if you got them all right. Now, again, you can have kids do it and then you can just review the answers with them. Always reset your questions afterwards so you're ready to begin in case you needed to do it with another class in case you teach science. We have some teachers that do that. Here was also a butterfly reveal. So that's another, if you've not used that game, it's another great game where you can just click on it to reveal it, but lots of times a teacher will do this whole group and ask kids first, or they'll ask kids to say the answer first and then go up to the board and click on it so that they know that the students know the answers. Okay, and then you'll see there's a flip out. And like I said, I'm not going to go to every single one. And then here's one. This is using pictures. I love this one because it's a little more open-ended. So the kids have to do a little bit more thinking. So they have to use the pictures and arrows to show the life cycle of a butterfly. And then they have to label the stages so they can do like this. And, you know, they can use the arrows, and they probably have to use the ones like that so they go the right way. And then they would use this arrow and so on. So, you know, and then they would have to add text. So that's why when I was talking about, when I'm modeling for teachers, I always start the year off with modeling how to use the tools. If I can go back and find this one, last year, Lumio came out with a great back to school lesson about, it's called All About Me, and it's about a child's name, especially for the lower grades. It was a great way to just, the kids could have fun introducing themselves through this Lumio lesson, but it also taught, I modeled how to use the pen. I modeled how to use the letters to type text. And I modeled how to use all of the other tools that they have so that when kids were working on Lumio after that, they knew how to use the tools. And actually, they just get them very quickly. Since we see this here, I do want to show you Immersive Reader. It, again, is an amazing feature that you have. When you have Immersive Reader, you can click on the book, and it will take you into Immersive Reader format, and you click the play button.
Butterfly life cycle.
And it reads it to the students. So this doesn't have a lot of words on it, but it's still, if you were assigning this to students individually, it would be something that they could use. Now, as you can see, this isn't set to be student paced right now or to be assigned to a student. So I can do one of two things. I could go back to edit the lesson, but I can also click on, let me go back, sorry. I can click on the people and see now I can make it an individual handout right for my students. And now you all should be able to work on it individually. And if I click on the teacher handout, I will only see the teacher handout up there. This is a great activity. If you want to model how to do this for students, I could put the teacher handout up, and then I could say, okay, students, follow along with me. And you could have them move the pieces as you are moving the pieces. The other thing about this too is if I have my board on, I definitely don't want to show kids other students' work. However, when something like this, you can ask students who would like to share. And then when I'm doing that, then I can say, Darlene, would you mind sharing? And then I can click on Darlene and I can show the kids what Darlene has done. And the kids love to share this way, but I do always ask them. The other thing I've done too, when I haven't shown it on the board, I can go and give feedback, which I could go over here and I can click on a star and I can put my color in there and I can type in, or I can write, great job. And I had first graders going, oh, she's writing on my work. Oh my gosh, you know, and they like get so excited when you give them feedback right away. So those of you who know how to use Lumio already, that's something you probably use. But for those of you that are new, I just wanted to point that out because it is one of my favorite features. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on to show you. Now it moves into a life cycle of a frog because in our district, they have to learn about several life cycles, and then they have to compare them. So I added this video to the already created lesson. And then here's where I added in a ReadWorks activity. Now you could do one of several things. Right now it's just a ReadWork where you can read it out loud to the kids, but I can make it an individual handout again, and kids could highlight it on it as they're reading it. So those are some things that remember, all you would have to do is go to the people person, put individual handout, and the kids don't have to do anything on it, but they could start highlighting on it, which is great. And again, it's something you can model with them as you're reading aloud. I love ReadWorks. They have articles in just about every level for kids. So it's definitely something that you should look into. All right, and that's the second page. And then there's there's a life cycle fill in the blanks. Here's the frog life cycle rank order. Now, if you notice this one, it looks a little different. It says open dashboard or model activity. For this, you'd want to model the activity, but I'm going to show you the teacher view, because one of the best things about this is, did the kids understand what they read or what they learned in the video? So if you will go ahead and you should be able to start the activity. And then I can see how students are doing right away. So as a teacher, you would be able to see how students are doing, how many, and as you can see, if you have not used it before, it will give you, but it says student progress. Now this is showing the class overview, and it shows you in progress, who have completed it and not yet started. But then I can check out individual progress. Now notice it says it's blurred out, and I know some of us are putting in wrong answers on purpose just to see what will happen, which is a great idea. But I'm going to go ahead and show you student progress. I'm sure it's, because this is just fake. So I can see how students have done, which means right away I can go do some small group reteaching if I need to, or it helps me figure out what do I need to assign those kids for practice work. So I love, there are 3 games right now that have this capability. So something again to look into. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. There's another label reveal. And if you don't want to do any of these activities with the kids, you can always delete them once you save a lesson to your library. You can then do what you want. Now, the reason I want to point out this one is because this says to create a life cycle, and they have to add the pictures in and add the text and everything. They can either illustrate it or look for images. But the one thing about this one is it causes a little more thinking of kids, so raises that thinking to the next level. So students are really having to think about what they learned and now transfer it to a new a different, either animal, it could even be a human, could be go from an animal to a plant. So just something to think about there. I also think a Venn diagram comparing and contrasting 2 different life cycles is also a great way to bring the thinking to at least the analyze level. So we want to try to do that, then always being knowledge and comprehension. Marissa, I'm going to stop here because that's the primary lesson. So are there any questions right now?
So far, we're answering them. Just really quick on your handout, can you click student progress right there on that individual handout? There was a question about how can as the teacher you model the handout on the board without it disrupting the students, and so you can see that little teacher handout there,
right,
in the bottom right hand corner, and then that way you as the teacher can model for students and they can still continue working on their handout.
Right. So on that first one, the butterfly one, you could actually do that. You could say, students, follow along with me. You do what I do. So they can do it on their own individual sheet while you're doing it on the board. And then you could have them do the frog one on their own, so that now you've shown them how to do it. Now they should be able to transfer that to do it on their own, and then just give help with the ones that need it, So that, yes, but it's clicking teacher activity, teacher handout on the bottom right-hand corner. So that kids, and I don't know, a lot depends on boards that you have, but you can also sometimes freeze your screen so that you can then look on your own screen. Another advice our Lumio person, our smart person gave us was, if you have it on if you also have the lesson on a iPad and you're walking around the room, that's a good way that you could give feedback while it's not showing up there on the board. So just another idea. Okay, so next we're going to move on to an intermediate lesson in science. Oh, that was a word search, sorry, to end it all off with some friends. And this slide came with the credits, so I wanted to make sure to leave the credits there. This presentation, I just added in a couple of the things. Like I said, I added in the ReadWorks and I added in a couple of the videos and that sort of thing. All right, so next we're going to talk about a Lumio lesson, an intermediate lesson with the solar system. In this one, I added a choice board activity, which I did create on my own. I added a ReadWorks passage, but in addition to the passage, I added a graphic organizer for them to fill out information that they learned from the passage. And then I also added a Wonder of the Day activity. I don't know how many of you have ever heard of Wonderopolis. It's really an amazing site. You don't even have to have an account. You can just go to the site and click on it. And again, I have a whole lesson that I'm putting in the Wakelet of Wonder of the Day for space. I only put part of it here just so you could see it. So I added that in here also from the amazing lesson that was already there. And so I found, so this was called Introduction to Astronomy. And then it tells you what the lesson objectives are, to have, to understand the components of the solar system. I know our 4th grade teachers teach solar system in our district. And so, and then they actually included in the objectives, actively exploring astronomy using game-based learning. So they started with a shouted out, and they're shouted out, and you can see they have a timer here. So I'm going to go ahead and start that timer. It's just going to see what you know, name planets in our solar system, and name other things in our solar system. So I'm going to go ahead and start that in case some of you would like to participate. Make it a little engaging for you so you're not just sitting there listening to me. Ah, I like how they put all of them on one. And so if you have not used Shout It Out before, I actually love this tool. Now for this, it's not going to be as useful as in some other cases, but let's say here I wanted to then, okay, so they have, I'm going to put Mercury with all the Mercuries with Mercury. Okay, so time's up, and it should have stopped you. And then I can group them though, but so let's say you were asking something about landforms or something like that. You could group them by like answers. Also, when you click on it, it will blow it up so the whole class can see it bigger if you're sharing it with the whole class. So that's another thing I love about Shout It Out. And it also gives you some great information about background knowledge and where kids are, and who's responding and who's not responding also. And so this is an example of a Wonderopolis that I created, a Wonder of the Day activity. So I'm just going to move this over here. So it says, ever wonder how big the solar system is? Click the link to read the article, check out the video and other resources on the Wonderopolis page. And then on the next page, choose 3 vocabulary words you learned, write their meanings, and draw a picture for each word. So I'm going to go click the link. And it's going to take me to the Wonderopolis page. So those of you who have not seen Wonderopolis, it's amazing. And as kids go down, they can listen to anything on this page and have it read to them. So Immersive Reader is also in Wonderopolis, and it'll go through, ask some questions. If you keep scrolling down, there's a video that they can watch. There is an article for them to read. Again, if they do it through Immersive Reader, it'll read the article to them. It tells you who came up with the Wonderopolis question, because kids can actually submit their own Wonderopolis questions. It has Wonder vocabulary words. They can take the Wonder challenge, and they can test their knowledge. But sometimes what I do when I'm doing the Wonderopolis Wonder of the Day, I will actually incorporate these into my Lumio lesson. But this is a great way for them to listen and gain knowledge, or to watch the video and gain knowledge. This makes a great center activity for kids. So something to think about if you have to group students. And I put some extra stuff in the Wakelet, and one of them is something that was in the Lumio library of how to group your kids for centers. So that will help you with that. So then if they go to the next page, and I believe I did not make this an individual handout again, so I'm going to do that. So I would definitely do that ahead of time, and I would probably at this point make it student paced, or I would give students, since I took this out of my Wonder of the Day, I would actually give my students the Wonder of the Day a student link. I wouldn't teach that. I would model it here, but then I would give them the link to my Wonder of the Day. And the Wonder of the Day that I'm sharing with you has a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday Wonder of the Day for space. And if you kind of like that idea, you could do the same thing and just change the template to another subject area if you'd like. But this is something that I found it's actually something that goes along with ReadWorks, but I adapted it to use for Wonder of the Day, so they could pick any 3 vocabulary words from the article, and they write the words in here, they write the meaning and put a picture. And so for the 3 words. So that was something that they could do on their own. So they're still learning. It's supplementing my teaching, because I don't want to be up there teaching them the whole time. I want them to investigate, especially by 4th grade. There are so many things that they can do independently that they don't need me to just sit there and go blah, 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 blah. You know, they can do it on their own, and they can investigate it, and they have so much more fun. So this is just part of the lesson that was included with some information. I added in this ReadWorks that I found. What is a planet? So the students can read it on their own. Again, I can make it student paced so they can highlight the article. And then when I get to, this is something that came from ReadWorks. At the end, I'll show you where to find that if you don't know how to find that, but it's in, when you search for featured items, ReadWorks is one of the featured items. So this is already, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go to student progress. This already is a student handout. And you can, this is just asking students to make a bulleted list of all the new ideas they learned after reading that article. And they can clone, so that they can choose anything they want to be their bullet, and they can type in information. And you can play with this if you want for a few minutes. And so again, right now, let me go back because I know this question came up before. So this is where you see students who are participating. When they are done, they click done. So you can see that from the student's point of view. If they click done, there will be a green check here. I don't want to pull this up unless I ask students permission to show their work, if they're willing to share their work. So if I want to not have that up, I just click in the bottom right-hand corner, teacher handout. And if you wanted something really specific that you wanted them to know, you could then at the end, maybe you give them a time limit, and then you can at the end make sure that they have certain facts. And what they could do is, as you are going over those facts, they could put a check mark by the ones they have. But if they don't have something, then you could give them that opportunity to add in what you thought was the most important thing that they need to know, because maybe you're asking it on a test or something, you know. So that's another thing that you can do. And this is just another activity that was already built into the unit, the lesson. And here's another one. And here's a planet song, if you really wanted to add that in. And there's a flip out. And these have links. If you click on the planet, it'll take you to a slide that gives specific information about that planet. And then you can go back to the spinner, which is really back to the main page. Okay. And these are all the slides that have that information, but rather than you going through it, you can just have the kids click on those links to learn something. This presentation is actually a great one that you could assign to fourth grade students. You could do a general gotcha, and then you can say, and you can put them in groups, and you can say, okay, this group is going to work on it together, and this group is going to work on it together, and then call them all back together and share what they've learned. There's so many ways you can use this ready-made lesson that I did not create in the Lumio library, that I just enhanced. And I mean, I know I'm so grateful to Lumio for all those lessons that they have in there. And some I know are created by teachers that submit them, but some are created by the Lumio staff. And the smart staff. So, and then this is the monster quiz. I'm going to go ahead and do this just because I love it. So in the monster quiz, you have to join, and you all are joined. So I'm going to divide you into teams, and I'm going to say 8 teams. In case you've never played this, this is an awesome game. So I'm going to start the quiz. You guys are going to take it. And I always keep this on the board, and we cheer each other on, and kids get all excited. You can decide if you make everybody finish, or if you just wait until you have the first, second, and third place winners. Thank you all for participating. Be tweeting that out. We don't have anybody in first place yet. I don't know how hard the questions are. We got first place. Let's go icy coolers. And I get my kids to like all clap and then cheer on the next. Okay, we got second place, mystery boxers. And then let's go third place. So let's try to get third place, but as a matter of time, I'm going to, you've been able to see on your part, if they get the answer wrong, it comes back to that question. So it's not like, okay, we got our third place winner. So you can stop the quiz at any time by clicking end quiz. But I love the review feature because you want to be able to allow students to go over the answers to make sure they understood the correct responses. So you can like go over these with them to say, and you can say if anybody's willing to share what, if they had trouble, what caused the trouble. Because let's say you were giving these similar questions on a test, you want to make sure that kids are really understanding the material. But anyway, so just wanted to share that with you because I love the monster game. It's a great way to end. I also love the, I don't have it in here. It might be on one of the other things. It's definitely on things that I've shared on the Wakelet, but the spin the wheel game, but I like to play that one at the board, not individually. So then there's more things here. More activities that go with solar system. And I like this activity because, this is a brain break that I just kind of found somewhere to add in. You just landed on Mars, draw your rocket and other things you discover on this planet. Again, find images to match the terms. This is a really great triple Venn diagram, which raises the thinking to the next level, and they can work with others in this group. So I could assign this. I don't have it assigned as anything, but if I wanted to, I could assign group workspace, and then all of your names would come back up. And just like in the monster game, I could break you into 8 teams, and then you all could work on it together. And I'm not going to leave a lot of time to do that because you'd have to go back. Some of you, if you don't teach space, you might have to go look it up. So this shows the different teams, and I can look at the group workspaces and see what kids are writing. I would not want to share that until the end when I ask kids permission, if I could. Okay. And then again, just another, now this is what I created. This is I created this in Canva. Pretty soon, I'm sure you've heard the big news, it will be incorporated into Lumio. So one of the things that will pop up will be, create in Lumio when you're looking for different things. But right now, you can still go to Canva, create something, and then just import it in as a PDF or a PNG or even a video. They even have presentations that you can create in Canva. But this just gives the directions. Use the pen to put an X on the activities you complete. Be ready to share your completed projects. And it just says complete 3 activities in a row, column, or diagonally. So it gives them some activities. It gives them voice and choice in their learning. There's a lot of creativity involved in these activities because we definitely want to, sometimes I think we don't do enough to encourage creativity in our classroom. So we definitely need to do that. And so you can see, I love Minecraft. I put that kids could design a solar system in Minecraft and use an NPC player to walk us through it. Or they could actually create an old fashion model, like the old-fashioned way with materials. They can choose one planet and create an infographic on Canva. In one of my activities, I gave you some examples of infographics in Canva. If you haven't used it, it's great, and you can share it with kids, and kids can create infographics, and they have templates already available. So you could conform one to, say, just for space, and then you could share that with students so they could create it. Create an original song about the solar system recorded in Microsoft Flip. So you would give them a link for that. So create a play about each planet in the solar system. So again, just adding in that creativity, but it's still content-based. They are still sharing what they are learning about the solar system. And oh, there's the game show. I love it. we're not gonna have time to play it, but if you've never seen it, the kids get to spin the wheel, and the question comes up, and they get to answer the question. And I got it wrong on purpose so you could see, so that if I get it wrong, the other team gets to try it, and then they get the points. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and actually reset this because we don't have a lot of time. And I still have some things to cover, but I love that game. It's so much fun. And then here's a quick quiz to start for the class. And again, you can immediately tell how kids are doing and if you need to do any reteaching. I'm just going to start it very quickly so you can see it from the student's perspective on your end. And I can see how many people have answered. I can show the questions if I want, but I can see live results when you start answering the questions. The information will come up here. And as a teacher, I can see who's getting them right. I can see an overall percentage of who's getting how the class is doing, and if I need to do any reteaching. Okay. All right. So any questions now before we go on to the STEM and design thinking?
So far, so good. All the questions are being answered, and we have people that have a lot of love for the game show, specifically because they can see student results right away. So love that. Again, that those on the spot moments, being able to kind of use that data to drive your teaching. So, but yeah, so far everyone's really loving all the resources.
So now you can see why I love Lumio. And again, I did not create those lessons. I just added to them. So thank you to everybody out there who created them for us, right? We got to send some love out there. Okay, so next we're going to talk about STEM and design thinking. Again, I did not create these. I am sharing something on the Wakelet that I did create, and it's on bee conservation, and it's kind of like a problem-based learning, design thinking type of activity for bee conservation that I did create. I created it for second grade gifted students. It was a webinar that I did about differentiation for Lumio. So I'm including the link to that has the complete lesson for that. So that's one that I totally created. Now, I don't know if you've used the PhET interactive simulations in science. There's a lot of those. Most of them, I will say, are geared more towards middle school and high school, but this is one, there are some for elementary. And here's one that I found that was great for the states of matter. And I think somebody talked about matter in that first activity that we did. So this is states of matter, the basics. So I'm going to go ahead and share that with you. So on the next page, there's a shout it out, which we've basically done, so we don't need to do it again, but you can start out with a shout it out. What is matter, to see if kids know anything about matter. And then this basically explains matter and what it is. And then when you go to the next activity, the next page, it will also say that matter can be sorted into 3 different categories. So you're sharing that with students. Now, one thing I could have done in here, which I didn't, because when I was trying to plan this, it's like, I was like, oh my gosh, I have so much I want to share, but I would have actually easily added in a video here too, a basic video on matter for students. But here's a property of a solid, and then I'm just going to go ahead and put it there so you can see what it is. And then if you've never used the pull activity, it has its own shape. And then molecules are packed close together. And that's kind of what it's showing here. And then it does the same thing for properties of a liquid and properties of a gas. And then it says, okay, now we're going to explore some molecules. How do molecules change through the different states of matter? And then that's where it comes into this PhET simulation. So I'm going to go ahead and click start. And you guys should be able to do this on your own screens. But you can click on states. And then this tells you these are the states and these are the phase changes. Okay. And so, oh wait, hold on. I have to go back here. Students, oh, and you can complete this activity individually. So I'm going to go ahead and click start. And then go ahead and play with it. Okay, so there it goes. So you can use the air pump. You can click the pause button. And then it'll tell you different models, atoms and molecules. But there was one other, hold on, let's see, maybe it's on the, let me go back to. There's a phase diagram. But I'm going to go back to. It shows how they're compacting together. But I want to go back to, trying to get back to the other thing. Oh, okay, I have to start it over. So let me go to states. Now, when I click on states, I can click on solid because the other one might be a little more advanced for our kids. So I can click on solid. Then I can click on liquid and it shows you what it looks like with a liquid. And then I can click on gas. So this just gives them a little bit of a visual where they can play with it and keep playing with it, and they can see the different elements, the molecules and atoms, and how each one looks different. Although it's still, remember you can then explain to them, okay, remember that definition that it gave us for a solid? If you notice, it doesn't matter which one I look at, they're still compact, right? And then for liquid and for gas. So just a little fun activity. And I would just go through the activities and kind of see what ones might be available for elementary. Okay. So then there's a super sort on that activity for that lesson. And then here's a match them up. So this is, remember when I was saying there were 3 activities that you can get instant feedback. The match them up is another one. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the model activity first. So you can see this one if you haven't used match them up. And it's where they have to match up the pictures. So now they've done the PhET simulation, they can kind of get an idea of the pictures. And then they have the words over here. So they can put one in this and one here. And then it'll match it up for them. So if you guys do that, if a couple of you will go ahead and work on that, I can go to my view progress and I see that 15 have started it. And then as you finish it, I will be able to see who's getting the answers correct or not. And again, I might have to pull back some small groups to do some reteaching. And I might have to do whole class reteaching. It just depends. So that is another one of those tools where I get instant feedback and I can help my students right away, which is so important. Okay. And some of you are finishing it, so.
And also, just so that you all know, we did put that survey because we are nearing the end of our
I know, I'm
time.
sorry.
Oh no, we're all loving it. It's so many resources. Okay. So we're going to keep putting that survey in the chat for you. So I'm going to kind of let Monica continue and wrap us up and everything, but please make sure we already have great feedback in the chat. But if you could also leave that on the survey, we also would really appreciate that. But I'm going to hand it back to Monica.
Yeah, I'm almost done. So then you've got exit tickets. Okay, so the design thinking, I got this poster off of Canva. I put it into a nice Lumio slide, and that just goes over it so you could teach the kids that. I shared mind maps is one of the things that is in Lumio already created, and I just turned it into a mind map for design thinking that I could do with students. And then this is a design thinking challenge that a teacher shared. So I'm going to let you go ahead. It's in the resources. So you can look at it and go over what she did. I'm just going to kind of go through it. She had a video, what design thinking was. She had a specific challenge for her classroom. And then she had them go through the process individually in their groups, brainstorm solution, create their prototype, test their prototype, and so on. And then share what they've learned. I always believe in adding reflection at the end because I think kids need to share what they've learned. And I like to lots of times do it in flip videos, but you can do any one of these things. And then of course you want to always showcase student work in design thinking challenge. So that's my link. You can click on that link right here for the Wakelet of resources, but I know that Marissa is also going to put it in the chat. We would love it if you can share what you learned from this session about Lumio and science. Share your thoughts on social media along with a graphic that Marissa is going to put in there. And don't forget to tag at Lumio Social and the hashtag Lumio Challenge to be entered to win a gift card. I also hope that you would if you don't mind, go ahead and tag me so I can retweet it. It's at Teach Serve. And just thank you so much for coming to this session. Here are some resources. This link is also in the chat for you. So if you're like me, I always have sticky notes on my desktop computer, so I can just copy and paste all these links into a sticky note that says, webinar, so that when I want to go back to them later, I can go back to them. But just thank you so much for being here. And then the survey Marissa has put in there. And once you complete your survey, you will get a link. You will get something sent back specifically for you to click on. All you'll need to do is copy and paste that link so that you can get your unique certificate for this webinar. So thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you all so much.